It is a true honor and pleasure to be a small part of this evening and to try to capture the spirit we've talked about and look to the future. I want to thank you, Dave, for your tireless efforts. It's a pleasure for the First Lady and I to be here to celebrate 75 years of the remarkable achievements of Missouri's Conservation Federation. One of the best things about tonight, in addition to having a chance to get up close and personal with that bull elk downstairs, which apparently it came in alive, so it's the only way you can get through the doors, but it's that it gives us a moment to pause and reflect. It gives us a moment to absorb the fact that we are literally standing in the footsteps of the visionary Missourians who, on this very date, in this very room, began their work, our work, 75 years ago, as Bill Crawford is our witness. There is powerful magic in that concurrence. We are gathered on hallowed ground. We are part of a living legacy, a legacy of stewardship, a legacy that calls us to act if we expect to preserve all the gains achieved by the Federation in its first 75 years and gain more ground in the next 75 years. From the moment of its inception in 1935, the work of the Conservation Federation has been driven by the shared passion of its diverse members and sustained by its genius for building coalitions. That is how it's been able to grow from the visionary core of 75 passionate sportsmen to more than 90,000 members and 80 affiliates today. Some issues transcend politics, and conservation is one of them. It's not the exclusive turf of Republicans or Democrats, the right or the left. We come from all parts of the state and, quite frankly, all walks of life. Our definitions of conservation may differ, but there's a place at the table for everyone. Vegan bird watchers and red meat hunters, the fur, fin, and feather crowd, along with the purists and the pantheists. Because whether we're hunters or hikers, birders or bikers, the Federation unites us in a common cause, a love of our outdoors. We stand together on common ground. We all want healthy forests and abundant wildlife to harvest. We all want clean air and clean water. We all want to pass on to our children and their children and their children a state whose fields and streams show not the ravages of misuse and neglect, but a beauty burnished by enlightened stewardship. We all share a core belief that in the fleeting moments allotted to us by the Almighty, we must do everything within our power to protect and preserve our earthly home. We heard from Bob Priddy about the rich history of the Federation, its many successful public campaigns, its battle scars, its dazzling list of innovations and accomplishments, but ultimately what we heard was the core of Missouri speaking for our country as an example for our world. I never tire of the story of how this started and what our role is today, because it's a wellspring of inspiration and courage, and you need both. Each time I hear it, it reinforces my fundamental belief that with vision and action, we can change history. We can make our own history. The men and women who started the Conservation Federation attacked not just the arduous challenges of conservation, but the extreme challenges of habitat and species restoration. they had to do more than conserve. There are foothills and there are mountains. Our forebears chose the mountains. And they made this ascent at the most difficult time imaginable, in the depths of the Great Depression, when Missouri's forests and wildlife had been decimated. After decades of overharvesting and habitat destruction, deer were scarce, wild turkeys were on the brink, buffalo, otter, and elk gone. But these conservationists had a clear vision of what Missouri could look like in the future and made it their mission to bring that vision to life. Determined to retrieve their squandered heritage, they launched a movement that revolutionized natural resources management. Their initiative petition campaign resulted in the creation of the Missouri Department of Conservation in 1936. 4 decades later, a new generation of Federation members spearheaded the successful passage of the dedicated conservation sales tax as a source of stable, broad-based funding for our flora and fauna. Now, as a full-time student of state government and legislative strategy, I'll tell you what, they did that deal pretty darn good. The notion of untrammeled wilderness is a romantic construct, but the plain fact is that every square inch of our state, our planet, is under management. Everything hangs on our stewardship. Dave asked me to speak to the future of conservation this evening. If I had a crystal ball and could see the future clearly, maybe I wouldn't worry so much about balancing the budget or the midterm elections. That way I could spend a lot more time hunting deer and turkey with Dave if he'd be quiet. Or trout fishing with Bill Bryant at Montauk. Might even get to go to a Mizzou game sometime. But I don't need a crystal ball, because the future of conservation is right in front of us. Quite frankly, right there at that table. Right there where Bob and Beth Zemer are sitting with their daughters, Emily and Lauren. Emily and Lauren have grown up in the outdoors, fishing, hiking, canoeing with their parents. The future of conservation lies in rekindling love and respect for the outdoors in every generation, but especially in our children. Nature instills a sense of wonder in a child that lasts a lifetime. I still remember the first time the rainbow hit my line at Bennett Spring. The thrill of that strike is with me today. And you know, I felt it again Sunday afternoon when I was catching fish with my dad down in the White River in Arkansas. My dad, who's 85 now, joined the Federation after his service in World War II and the Korean War. Like many of his generation, he joined the Federation because he enjoyed the camaraderie, wanted to keep his marksmanship skills sharp, and wasn't quite ready to relax and pitch horseshoes at the local VFW. I cherish every hour we spent trout fishing in our great state, at Bennett and Montauk and the other places when I was a kid. I learned a lot about determination, a little about humility from those trout. It's vital that we pass on that Missouri outdoor tradition. But our state is not as rural as it once was. More and more kids are growing up in the suburbs and the exurbs where the outdoors used to be. We cannot afford for them to lose that powerful connection with nature. So earlier this year, in fact, it was your annual convention at Lake of the Ozarks, I signed an executive order issuing the Children in Nature Challenge to all Missourians. I'm challenging all Missouri communities to make the most of opportunities out there for children and experience and explore the outdoors firsthand. Not every child in Missouri is lucky enough to have a classroom like those the First Lady visited on Earth Day at the Wolf School in Springfield. The entire curriculum for 5th grade is taught in the context of nature and conservation. The kids take field trips, as in out in the field, several times a week, year-round. Those field trips are underwritten by the Federation, MDC, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the local Parks Department. The program is an innovative partnership between Springfield Superintendent Dr. Norm Ritter, Johnny Morris and Bass Pro Shops, and many others. Kids are clamoring to get in this unique program. Hundreds turned away. It has a long waiting list. That is the future of conservation. The First Lady has seen to it that all the activities at this year's Fall Festivals at the Mansion are geared towards sharing nature with children, in coordination with the Federation and the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation. We've even talked Dave Murphy to be there with some wild turkey, the kind you hunt, not the kind you drink. There's some lessons nature doesn't need to teach these kids. And he'll be showing the kids how to make a turkey call. Getting outdoors with children doesn't have to involve anything as organized as a canoe trip on the current or a hike to see the wild orchids in Hahn State Park, although I highly recommend both. This year I've personally been to 61 of our state parks already. I'm going to make it to all 85 this year, 61. Tomorrow we'll get to In fact, Georgiana and I took our dog Daniel Boone on a fall float on the lower current last week. Lots of water, beautiful scenery, no crowds, and our dog running back and forth in the side of the canoe and almost tipping us over as it tried to lurch to the animals that we passed. Now, we're blessed to have 4 distinct seasons in Missouri that we can enjoy all year. So instead of sitting on the couch or watching TV, take your kids outside. And the great thing about nature, no reruns. Everything changes from moment to moment and season to season. A child's sense of wonder can be awakened by learning to be still and wait for miracles to reveal themselves. The first tiny crack in a robin's egg that signals the impatient life within it. The fierce throb of a cardinal's territorial call. The slow but unstoppable trudge of a turtle crossing the road to find true love. The bugling of a bull elk on a chill winter day. The smell of the woods after a rainstorm. Sharing miracles with children. That is the future of conservation.